Chapter 16 of Epiphanies finally upon us. Let's go. Here we go. Alright. Chapter 16. Breathe in, breathe out. Alright, guys. A fire engine just went past me. And a fire car. Not a car on fire, like a car with a firefighter's design on them. Like red with yellow stripes. Anyway, guys. I think it's about time that we stop messing around here. I had spent a good amount of time recording this, Chapter 17, Chapter 18, and Chapter 19. And you know what I went and did? I just accidentally went and deleted all the recordings I did, like a dunce. So, I'm sorry if I'm sounding a bit harsh here. I'm not yelling at you, I'm yelling at myself because tomorrow has to be when the new Empathy chapter comes up, and I'm not going to leave you guys dry any longer. It's about time I started focusing on recordings along with balancing everything else in my life, so what I've decided to do is that at weekends I will do 2 recordings a day, and 1 episode of Empathy will be released. Luckily, my recordings of chapters 20, 21, and 22 are still there, so they'll be released on other Sundays while I record the rest of the chapters. So yeah, that'll be my plan for now. And I will also be seeing if I can finish up other stuff that I'm doing, and maybe get some more elements of gaming in there. So I hope you all enjoy this chapter, and I've stalled for long enough. Let's begin. Tip Tucci walked glumly down the steep street towards her house, her hands in her pockets and her eyes trained on her feet, Pig following diligently behind her. As she walked, she stole a glance towards the house across the street from hers, up to the window that she knew led to Riley's room. She looked at it for a moment before sighing, and dropping her shoulders while running a hand through her massive curly hair. Sensing her distress, Pig wound his way around her legs and meowed up at her. Looking down at the cat, Tip gave Pig a small smile before leaning down and scooping him into her arms. Gotta get my hood up because it's starting to drizzle a little bit. Thanks, Pig, Tip said as she held the purring cat close and rubbed her cheek gently against the top of his head. But I think this problem will take more than the hug to fix it. Yeah, I know. As she spoke, the sound of a car approaching brought Tip's attention down towards the bottom of the hill. As she watched, Wasabi's van came rolling up the street before stopping right in front of her. As the vehicle came to a halt, the sliding door on the side facing her was yanked open, and Tip found herself face to face with Fred. Glancing past him, Tip could see Wasabi sitting in the driver's seat with Go-Go sitting next to him, while Honey sat in the seat beside Fred. Fred? Tip questioned, arcing a confused eyebrow at the young man. What are you doing? No time to explain, Fred said breathlessly. Get in the van. There was a quiet moment as Tip's expression turned more confused as she glanced up and down the street. You know, if anyone else saw this, they'd think you were kidnapping me, Tip pointed out with a wry smirk as she placed Pig back on the ground. Why do you guys always have to make this weird? Wasabi complained as he looked over her shoulder at Tip. Seriously though, we do need your help, Fred pressed with a snort of amusement. I already texted your mom and she said it was cool. What do you need my help with? Tip questioned as she stepped up into the van, Pig hopping in behind her. As she did, Fred stepped aside to let her in, allowing her to see Riley sitting directly behind him. Tip! Joy's voice rang out in the confines of Riley's mind. Riley! Tip gasped in surprise as she saw the other girl, quickly taking the open seat next to her. It's so good to see you, how are... Tip's voice died in her throat as she witnessed Riley's complete non-reaction to her presence. electing to instead stare blankly at the seat in front of her. Still nothing? Fear questioned. Nothing. Sadness sighed. I really thought seeing Tip would help. It's okay, guys, Joy spoke up, doing her best to reassure the others. They're not giving up on us just yet. Riley? Tip asked with confusion before turning her attention towards Fred. What's wrong with her? We think it has something to do with her powers, Fred explained as he slid the door closed and took a seat next to Honey. The night of the fire, there were a lot of powerful negative emotions flying around. I think that they may have overloaded Riley somehow. Can someone fix it? Tip questioned as Wasabi pulled away from the curb. We don't know yet, Honey answered, a morose look on her face. Conventional means thus far have proved ineffective. All that means is we have to get a little unconventional, Fred stated confidently. Sorry, almost dropped my phone. See? Joy spoke up. I knew Fred had a plan. I'm not so sure that's a good thing, though, Discuss quipped. How unconventional are we talking? Tip questioned as she quirked an eyebrow at the young man. We're going to take things in a Zen direction, Fred explained before looking up at Wasabi. Tell her, Wasabi. When I first brought Riley to learn Tai Chi from Takahito Sensei, he helped her control her powers through meditation, Riley explained. His eyes focused on the road in front of him as he spoke. I'm not exactly sure how it worked, but Riley basically said that being at calm and in peace are an emotion in and of themselves. She says she was able to copy that feeling and it helped her control her powers. Oh yeah, the Tai Chi lessons, I get it. So you think by doing it again, Riley can snap out of whatever funk she's in? Tip suggested. That's the idea, Gogo acknowledged. Then what are we all doing here? Tip questioned. Well, if Fargo is being overloaded with negative emotions, I figure we can counteract them with a bunch of positive emotions, Fred explained. So, while Takahito helps Riley, we'll be there for some very tangible moral support. A man after my own heart, Joy cooed. See, I told you guys he had an idea. Alright, I guess that makes... Tip trailed off as a thought struck her and she glanced around the van. Where's Hiro? Fred cringed as an uncomfortable awkwardness washed over the van. He's not here, is he? Okay, I understand that Tadashi was his brother, and grief is a very powerful emotion, but... Oh no, Sadness whispered. If we're going to do this moral support thing, we need Hiro, Tip went on. You know she's got some kind of psychic bond with him. He's literally the most useful person for this idea of yours. I know, Fred conceded as he scratched the back of his head and looked away from Tip. But the thing is... The kid isn't coming, Gogo finished bluntly. What? Anger roared in outrage. Why the hell not? Tip snapped, her accent becoming thicker as her anger rose. Hiro has... taken Tadashi's death very hard, Honey explained, a slight tremble in her voice as she spoke. He spends most of his time now locked in his room. I've been working at the Lucky Cat lately, and I haven't even seen him. He's hurting Tip, and that's bullshit! Tip screamed, causing Honey and Fred to lean back from her in alarm, while Wasabi jerked the wheel slightly in alarm, causing the tires outside to screech against the pavement while a car blared its horns somewhere behind them. Gogo, for her part, leaned over to look back at Tip, her expression impressed. You know, I'm really warming up to this girl, Anger commented with a chuckle. Oh, don't look at me like that! You all know it's true! Tip growled as she looked around at all the gazes focused on her. We're all in pain right now, but we're still all here to help Riley. The fact that he's moping in his room instead of being here to help her is... bullshit, Gogo finished for her. We caught that part. The fact of the matter is, we can't force Hero to come, Fred stated with a sigh, regardless of how much we'd want him to. Why don't we worry about helping Riley, then we can worry about Hero, Honey suggested, reaching over the seat and putting a hand on Tip's shoulder. One thing at a time, right? Alright? Okay, Tip agreed with a resigned sigh, settling back into the seat as she did. I hope you're enjoying this cozy wind blowing through my coat as I'm reading this. Really complements the design. Really complements the atmosphere. Why did I say design? Excusing me? O's voice suddenly came from the back of the van, causing everyone except Riley to jump in surprise as Wasabi almost swerved off the road for the second time in as many minutes. But what does the excrement of a bovine animal has to do with this problem? Oh, are you kidding me? He's just gone with them, hasn't he? Oh? Gogo snapped as she turned around in her seat to glare at the booth, while Wasabi regained control of the van. What are you doing back there? Sittings, mostly, O answered obliviously. No, she means, what are you doing here, in the van? Tip questioned, turning around to face O. This is a gathering of Riley Anderson's friends, is it not? O asked. It is, Fred confirmed, turning in his seat to look at O as well. And am I not being her friends? O questioned further. Of course you are, Honey answered, mirroring Fred's movements as she spoke. Then why should I not be being here? O asked, crossing his arms and turning a light shade of red as he glared at the others in challenge. Because you're a goddamn alien, O, and if anyone sees you, they'll drag you back to Kraytech and experiment on you, Gogo answered sardonically. Ah, O replied, realization plastered across his features. I had not thoughts of that. Well, you're here now, Wasabi sighed. When we get where we're going, just stay hidden in the van and it will be fine. But I wish to be the helps, O argued with a downtrodden expression. You are helping, Tip spoke up. You took a pretty big risk coming out here for Riley, even if you didn't realize. I'm sure she appreciates it. I'd like to think I speak for everyone when I say that she does, Joyce stated from within Riley's mind. I only wish to pay back your hospitalities, O replied, turning a bright shade of pink as he spoke. Pink is an amazing color, O. If it were not for yous, I would still be in the smelly trash receptacle. Well, I'm sure you'll figure out another way to repay us, Wasabi spoke up. For now, just keep your head down, or you'll end up somewhere worse than the dumpster. With that, everyone in the van settled back down, with O sliding back into his hiding place at the back of the van. Do you really think this is going to work, Joy? Fear questioned nervously. As Wasabi drove them to their destination, Tip's eyes drifted back over to Riley, who was staring blankly out the window at the shifting landscape. Yeah, Joy replied after a pause, her voice full of confidence. A sad smile crossed Tip's face before she reached over and took Riley's hand into her own. I've got a good feeling about this. Alright, I've rested enough. It's about time for me to get going. A short while later, Wasabi pulled the van into the parking lot of the small park where he and Riley would meet with Takahito. Putting the van into park, Wasabi turned back towards the rear of the vehicle as the others began filing out. Oh, Wasabi said, prompting the booth to peek his head out from his hiding spot. Remember what I said. Stay out of sight until we get back. And watch Pig, Tip added, pointing to where the cat curled up on the floor of the van. O nodded in reply, prompting Wasabi to nod as well before stepping out of the van. O watched them as the group entered the park before sighing sadly, turning a shade of blue as he did. I wish as there was a way that I can be repaying them back, O said glumly before turning away from the window. As he did, something on the other side of the van caught his attention, causing him to gasp in surprised delight before he rushed across the seats and pressed his face against the window. "Perhaps there is," O whispered in awe as he looked at the convenience store sitting on the other side of the parking lot, his eyes drawn to the slushing machine sitting in the window. "Oh, you better not be thinking about whatever it is you're thinking about." Walking through the park, the group made their way over to the small hill with a lone tree sitting upon it. There, Takahito was waiting for them, dressed in khaki shorts and a bright red Hawaiian shirt. "Good morning." Takahito greeted them with a nod of his head. "Good morning, Sensei." Wasabi greeted in return and giving the old man a bow, prompting the others to bow as well. All except for Riley, who remained standing, her eyes focused on the ground in front of her. Takahito's gaze fell on Riley as the others straightened back up. "Sensei, I know I talked to you briefly on the phone about this, but..." Wasabi began to say, but stopped as Takahito held up a hand. His eyes still focused on Riley, Takahito walked towards the girl, the other stepping aside to let him through. "Riley," he stated, but received no reply or any indication he had been heard at all. Holding up his hand, Takahito extended a finger before slowly passing it in front of Riley's eyes, which did not stir. Slowly, Takahito pulled back his hand before he lashed out at Riley with a blow that was almost too quick to see. As the others gasped in shock, Takahito froze mid-blow, his hand extended in a chopping motion aimed at the base of Riley's neck. "Hey, I'm sorry if I'm stopping, it's just that I'm apparently walking in muddy terrain now, and I think I just went past that way. I just need to find a way to get onto the path that leads to the road. I can barely see anything even with the torch on. Please bear with me for a sec. Okay, I think you know what? Don't worry about it, I'll just keep on reading until I can find the space. It is about time that I head back anyway. Even your nerves have improved considerably, my student," Takahito said as he retracted his arm before folding his hands behind his back. "Oh, you are not paying attention." She would have reacted, but... there we are, I can see the path. Don't worry guys, I'm still here. It's like I said, Sensei, Wasabi said as he stepped up next to Takahito. The trauma she suffered because of her powers has left her practically comatose. I see. Takahito agreed with a nod before looking up at Wasabi. What I do not see is how I will be able to help her. When you help Riley learn to control her emotions and powers, she said she figured it out by leeching off of your zenness. Fred spoke up, walking up to Takahito's other side. We were thinking that if we could get her to do it again, she might be able to break through her trauma. Good idea, Fred! Really good idea, man! Takahito did not reply, merely raising a skeptical eyebrow at Fred. Please, sir, Honey pleaded as she stepped forward. We've tried everything else. Takahito looked at Honey for a moment before taking a deep breath and sighing. Very well, Takahito acquiesced with a nod. There is no harm in trying, after all. Honey smiled at the reply, and Fred did a little fist pump of victory, while Takahito turned from the group and made his way over to the cherry tree, prompting the others to follow him. As he reached the tree, Takahito sat with his back against the bark, while crossing his legs into the lotus position, the others following suit, forming a circle on top of the hill. Top of the hill, there was a silent P. Taking Riley's hand, Tip led her to the center of the circle and eased her into a sitting position, before sitting with the rest of the group in the circle. I take it you are all familiar with the basics of meditation, Takahito questioned as he glanced around the circle, earning nods and reply from everyone. Good. Then let us begin. With that, Takahito closed his eyes and began taking long, deep breaths. The others quickly followed suit, and soon there was nothing to be heard but soft breathing and cars drifting by on the road beyond the park. For a few moments, nothing happened as Riley merely sat on the ground, staring at the grass. This isn't working! Anger grumbled, and Riley could almost hear him tightening his hands into his fists. This is stupid. We're just sitting here staring at the lawn work. Hi, Jack. Thank you. I'm in the middle of reading. I'll, text you again later. Give it a chance, Anger, Joy pleaded. We can't give up yet. I'm sure this'll work. You always say that, Anger snapped. You always say that, but you never have any facts to back it up. Guys? Fear whispered as Riley's eyes slowly drifted close. There are no facts to be had, Joy argued. We need faith. Guys? Fear said again, louder this time as Riley's breathing began to fall in line with that of the others. Faith? Anger bellowed, failing to notice as the sight beneath Riley's eyelids began to change from black to white. What a crock of— Guys, shut up! Disco shouted. Something's happening! It's working! Joy exclaimed with delight as the sounds of the world began to fall away. It's work! Joy's words faded away, replaced by a calm, peaceful silence, broken only by Riley's breathing and that of those around her. In Riley's mind, the world had fallen away, replaced by a vast, white emptiness. Riley breathed in deep, slowly let it out, and the screams began. The fire was everywhere, replacing the blank emptiness with its burning flames, casting everything in a hellish glow as smoke choked the air. Riley squinted, her eyes tightly closed, trying to deny the flames. As she did, the screams only became louder and more distinct. She could hear Honey sobbing with grief and Cass screaming with pain. The sound of her parents calling out in horror, and Hero. Even as she felt the fire still around her, Riley could tell she was in a different place. In her mind's eye, she saw Hero's room. The same room that he had once shared with his brother. He sat at his desk, a forlorn look on his face, and Riley knew that in his hands was a picture of him and his brother. Tadashi, she heard Hiro whisper, and suddenly his room fell away, and Riley was alone with the flames once again. Tadashi, Riley repeated over the crackle of the fire, and at that moment, she could feel him standing before her. Not as he had been, happy and full of life, but how he had ended. Even though her eyes were closed, Riley still tried to turn away from the vision within her mind, refusing to look at Tadashi's charred form, as the smell of cooked meat began to fill her nose. Riley bit her lip as she tried to keep her tears from flowing down her cheeks, her whole body shaking under the weight of Tadashi's dead stare. Tadashi! The word echoed in Riley's head this time, and at that moment, Riley could feel the others surrounding her, joining her in the fire. She could sense of pain. She could sense the pain of her friends as they faced their memories of Tadashi as well. In her mind, Riley could see the tears running down Honey's cheeks, could feel Gogo's chest tighten with guilt, as Tip worried her bottom lip out of fear. Riley felt a small tug on her own, and she even felt a small crease in her brow from Takahito's frown of concern. Riley felt all their pain, but in doing so, she realized they felt her pain as well. They didn't feel it the same way she did, as a visceral, tangible thing. But they knew what she felt because they had felt it as well. As she concentrated on her friends, Riley could feel other emotions, those core to who they were, beneath the surface of their pain. Honey's sunny optimism, Fred's electric enthusiasm, Wasabi's friendly affability, Gogo's burning determination, and Tip's stubborn will. Even in Takahito, beneath his zen calm, Riley could sense a resolve harder than iron. Oh, I know the feeling of finding yourself stuck out on the ledge, and there ain't no healing from cutting yourself with the jagged edge. I'm telling you that it's never that bad. Take it from someone who's been where you're at, laid out on the floor, and you're not sure you can take this anymore. All of her friends had been scarred by their pain, but underneath it, they were still the people with the strength to carry on through their pain, supported by each other. It was at that moment Riley had an epiphany. Riley's powers meant that she could be burdened by the pain of those around her, but she could call on her strength as well, reinforce her resolve with those she cared for. So please let us take you out of the darkness and into the light, 'cause I have faith in you that you're gonna make it through another night. Stop thinking about the easy way out. No need to blow the candle out, because you're far too young. You're not done yet. The best is yet to come. Just give it one more try to a lullaby, and turn this up on the radio. If you can hear me now, I'm reaching out to let you know that you're not alone. And if you can tell, I'm scared as hell, 'cause I can't get you on the telephone. So just close your eyes, close your eyes. Riley, here comes a lullaby, your very own lullaby. Settling herself into the lotus position, Riley squared her shoulders and took a deep breath. As she did, she pulled in the strength of her friends, the energy of their emotions settling into her chest like a condensed ball. Concentrating on those emotions, Riley slowly began to breathe out, the energy spreading through her whole body. As it did, she felt the fear and pain that had been trapped inside of her since Tadashi's death being forced out of her. For a moment, Riley felt as if smoke was pouring out of her mouth with her breath, burning her throat and choking her lungs. Then, just as quickly, it was gone, taking the flames with it, and Riley felt herself sitting alone in the empty white void once more. Well, everybody's been at the bottom. Everybody's been forgotten. Everybody's tired of being alone. Everybody's been abandoned. Left a little empty-handed. So if you're out there barely hanging on. Taking a breath in, Riley felt the calmness of meditation wash over her, the emotions of her friends fizzling out like dying embers. As she breathed out, Riley could feel a slight stirring of the air around her, and for a moment she could swear she felt something light and furry brush against her arm. But before she could concentrate on it, Riley finished breathing out, and in doing so, felt something crack inside of her. Just give it one more try to a lullaby. Turn this up on the radio. If you can hear us now, we're reaching out to let you know you're not alone. And if you can't tell, we're scared as hell, 'cause we can't get you on the telephone. So just close your eyes, close your eyes, close your eyes. Like a dam breaking, all of her own emotions, which until that point had been repressed by the pain she had been warring with, came rushing to the forefront, slamming against her like a tidal wave. A moment later, and Riley found herself back in the park, sitting on the hill surrounded by her friends, openly weeping. Riley, here comes a lullaby, your very own lullaby. This is our lullaby. Our friendship lullaby. Did it? Sadness's voice whispered in Riley's head. Did it work? Well, she's crying so hard snot is starting to run out of her nose, Disgust spoke up. So, yes? Riley? Tip spoke up, her voice full of trepidation. Riley! Gogo exclaimed, scrambling to her feet and over to the girl's side. Reaching her, Gogo wrapped her arms around Riley, a gesture the girl quickly returned, burying her face in the young woman's shoulder. Are you... Gogo questioned, pulling away from Riley and cupping the young girl's face with her hands. Are you... okay? I think so, Riley replied, smiling slightly as tears continued to run down her face. I'm better than I was, at least. It worked! Joy exclaimed happily. Our girl is back! God, kid, you scared me, Gogo stated, smiling back at Riley as she leaned down and rested her forehead against Riley's, her hair hiding the tears welling up in her own eyes. Don't do that ever again, okay? I'll try, Riley said with a small laugh, before turning towards Tip as the girl kneeled next to her and enveloped her in a hug. God, I'm so happy to have you back, Tip whispered before they pulled apart, allowing Riley to embrace her other friends in return. Thanks for not giving up on me, Fred, Riley said as she hugged the young man. Would never dream of it, Fargo, Fred replied with a smile. And thank you for your help as well, Sensei, Riley said as she fully turned towards Takahito and bowed deeply to him. It was my honor, Takahito replied with a small nod and an amused smile. It proved to be an intriguing experience. In case you guys hadn't heard it, I kind of helped out a bit myself with the musical number from Nickelback, Lullaby. It's, my specialty version. I hope you all enjoyed the song, by the way. Please don't copyright strike me, Nickelback. I really love your song, and I will, I didn't play the actual song, I just sang it, is all. I'll say, Wasabi agreed as he ran a hand through his dreadlocks. Felt like my head was on fire for a moment there. Sorry, Riley apologized, wiping the tears from her eyes as she spoke. That was me. I kind of used your positive emotions to push out all the negative ones that were trapped in my head. Well, I'm just happy we could help, Honey said, giving Riley a bright smile. Grief is a powerful force, and it can divide us. But when we push through it and come together in the face of adversity, our bonds will grow stronger, and love will never die. Love will ignite the stars. I got the last bit off of the Revenge of the Sith novelization. I knew about this because, TV tropes. But anyway, you all help more than you know, Riley stated, looking around at her friends as she spoke. It was the least we could do, Gogo replied with a shrug. And some of us didn't even do that, Tip grumbled bitterly. Huh? Riley questioned in confusion as she turned her attention towards Tip. Hero? The guy you have a major crush on? Tip replied as she motioned towards everyone in the group. Notice he couldn't be bothered to show up. I know, Riley replied with a sad sigh before continuing. But I understand why, and Hero still managed to help in his own way. How so? Fred questioned, quirking an eyebrow at Riley as he spoke. Like Tip said earlier, Hero and I have a bond, I guess. Riley explained with a shrug, blushing as she spoke. I could sense what he was feeling, even though he wasn't here. It's what led me to figuring out how to fix what was wrong with me. He still should have been here, Tip stated, crossing her arms as she spoke. I know, Riley agreed with a nod. But now, he's the one who needs help. How do you plan on doing that? Tip asked. He doesn't want to see anyone. I'm hoping he'll want to see me, Riley replied with a shrug, before she smiled confidently at Tip. I'm beat for right now, but tomorrow, after school, would you like to go to the Lucky Cat with me? Despite herself, Tip couldn't help but smirk back at her friend. It's a date. What an amazing chapter. And I really believe in Riley and Tip at this point. Hero is still hurting, but I'm sure they'll be able to find a way to help him. Because after all, if Riley can be saved, Hero can be saved. It's basically how this works, I think. But with any event, guys, oh, sorry, someone must have seen me recording and heard me. But anyway, guys, that's chapter 16 finally done. I managed to record the first part of this yesterday, and I've just recorded the second part tonight. But the first part was last night, and this one was tonight. I'll merge the videos together and release them onto YouTube ASAP before I go to bed. So you'll have a Sunday video. Yay, at last. However, guys, that is all from me. I hope you all have a good night. And, as always, I'm the Masked Ranger saying Love should not be trifled with. Emotions can be painful, but they can also help us when we're down. Love and friendship can see us through the darkest of times. Enjoy the rest of your night, and keep moving forward.